All right, guys. So as a seller, you have options. And I'm going to explain to you what all those options are. And here's the number of options you have, basically. 3. So those 3 options are: 1, the traditional MLS represented by a realtor. That's the traditional option. I'll explain that. Number 2 is going through an investor or an investor company. So it could just be one person who offers you to buy your house, or it could be an entire company. And I'll go over the most well-known types of companies that you're going to hear about and all the options. And then 3 is your for sale by owner. You'll hear that in the biz called a FSBO. So I'll give you the pros and cons of everything, completely unbiased approach, and you can choose which one best fits your needs. Okay, I want to jump to the one that I'm getting most questions about these days, and that's the investors. So let me kind of break it down to you in one phrase. For an investor, it is very convenient, and you're paying for that convenience. So if you watched my last video about asking for your net proceeds, this is very important when you're talking to any investor company. And those are called iBuyers. You're going to hear that a lot. iBuyers, those are investment companies. And what they do is they offer you a certain amount, but then you pay for repairs. You also pay between 7 and 10% commission. They call it a service fee, but it's the same thing. It's pretty much a commission. You're paying 7 to 10% on the transaction. So you're still paying those fees. And then they do the work for you. You move out when you want. It's super convenient. It's really easy. You get a check in 10 to 14 days typically. Sometimes a little longer, sometimes maybe even a little shorter. So it's nice. I mean, if you have a lot of equity in the house and you don't mind leaving some of it on the table, I've definitely seen $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 left on the table. If that's worth the convenience, because maybe you have a ton of equity in the house, it could be a great option. Each company is going to be a little bit different. They all have their little tweaks to make them kind of set themselves apart. So you have to choose if that's worth it to you. But make sure the net sheet, so you can find your net proceeds, is provided, because that's what's most important. So what I do is I compare the net sheet from an iBuyer or an investor, and then I compare it to the traditional method of putting it on the MLS. So with that, you are paying a realtor, 2 realtors to be exact, because you actually pay for your realtor to represent you and the buyer's realtor. So it's 3% for each side, equaling a total of 6%. People think that is high, especially when you have a high purchase price, but it's less than the investors are charging you, between 7 and 10%. It's crazy. I don't know why people think that they're getting ripped off, but it's 6%. So do the math, break down how much you would get on the MLS, which is always higher. In my circumstances, in my experience, it's always higher. And then you just break down which one you get more from. Now, here's what's frustrating about the traditional method of putting it on the MLS. It's inconvenient, right? So you have to keep your house nice. You got to fix some of the repairs. You have to be inconvenienced of maybe you're still living in the property and you want to have lunch and people want to see the house. So you want to sell the house. So you let them come check it out. And maybe they don't buy the house, so you get frustrated. Is that inconvenience worth the amount of money that you'd be losing by selling it to an investor? That's what you have to decide. So the last one is the FSBO, for sale by owner. And guess what? You pay 0 fees. Because there's no one representing you. There's no other companies involved. You're just completely representing yourself. You're an unrepresented seller. You're doing all the work. So maybe that's worth it to you. So here's where I would advise you some things that you need to be very, very aware of. You have to do the research on your own in order to save that money. So you need to research, one, contract law, and two, real estate law. You need to understand the disclosure laws and the real estate obligations that you have to abide by, or you could potentially be in litigation down the road. So you have to do that research, and you need to decide, is saving that money worth the time and effort and potentially mistakes that you could make when you do research that information. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. That's 100% your decision to make. Now, another thing you have to really know how to do yourself is how to qualify the buyers, because you're going to be taking all the phone calls that normally a realtor would be taking for you, asking all the questions to make sure that that buyer is qualified. So you do need to learn how to do that and what makes a buyer qualified, so you have the best likelihood of closing and selling your property. And then the very last thing is that if you are selling your house, you do need to negotiate yourself. You have to negotiate all the deals, all the offers that come by. And keep in mind that buyers that are going to look at for sale by owners, they're typically looking for good deals. So you're probably not going to get full price, and they're going to be comparing your house to other houses that are listed on the MLS, and they're going to right off the bat say, well, you're not paying a realtor, so we can take 6% right off the top. And then they're going to try to negotiate at that point and get as low as possible. That's typically what they're doing, why they're out there looking at for sale by owners. So that's really it, guys. I just wanted to throw it all out there and know what your options are. It's completely unbiased. It's truly my opinion. If I was selling my own house and I wasn't a realtor, or I didn't know any realtors, this is how I would look at them. And then I would just weigh the pros and the cons, all the benefits, how hard it was, how much time it would take for me to learn all this, and then make a decision. Is it worth it to you? And how much money is it worth to go in whatever direction you decide?